Welcome to your Daily Writing Habit, episode number 475. If you're writing a book or thinking about it or trying to finish a book that you've started at some point, you are in the right place. Good morning. Happy Thursday. I'm your host, Christine Whitmarsh, also known as Christine Inc., like that stuff we write with. Each day, I'm sharing with you the writing habits I've learned over my 19 years as a ghostwriter, book coach, and author. I have found that three things in particular have a huge impact on your success as an author, and they have the ability to turn someone who barely sees themselves as a writer into a published book author. Those three things are writing fundamentals, productivity, and mindset habits. Here's today's quote. "It's not that I'm so smart, it's just that I stay with problems longer." Albert Einstein. Well, yes, he clearly did. And today I want to share with you, this is something that I shared with my Writers Club Live kind of group author coaching program over this past weekend. I want to share with you 3 ways to come back to your book project after falling off track. It happens to the best of us, happens to all authors, even the famous ones. We all fall off track, and I've come up with 3 ways to kind of get re-energized and reconnect and recharge your book writing project. The first way is, number 1, without even looking at your work in progress, which for me is usually like a notebook that gets shoved in a corner somewhere, and I forgot that there's a book in there. So without even looking at your work in progress, your manuscript, freestyle write about your why for writing your book as much as you remember it. Why did you want to write this book in the first place? So remember, it could be like 100 whys, it could be 3, it could be 10. So write all the different reasons why you wanted to write this book. Before you attempt to reconnect with the actual words, as Simon Sinek says, start with why. Number 2, next, find where you left off in your manuscript, and rather than diving back in, read the whole chapter or the section or whatever area it is where you left off. Read up until that point. Then jot down an outline of where you want to go next. So rather than trying to just start writing, especially if it's been a while since you've worked on this project and you're just going to start, writing coherent paragraphs and chapters and all this, it might be easier just to kind of, redo for those of you who know what a book blueprint is, my book development process, but just come up with a new outline. Bullet points are perfect in this situation. Just realize that your original plan, your original table of contents, your original bullet points for where you were going to take this book could be completely outdated at this point, and that's fine. That doesn't mean you wasted any time. All the time you've invested in your book has been valuable for its own reasons. So allow yourself to change your mind. So what you're doing now is, finding where you left off in your manuscript and just right off the top of your head, writing those bullet points, writing an outline of where you want to go from there, and write it as far out as you want. Go to the end of the book if you want, or just go to the end of the chapter. However far ahead down the road you can see, write bullet points of where you want to go. And finally, number 3. This time, I want you to write something. So I want you to write the next thing in your book, the next paragraph, the next scene. That's a good idea. The next story, the next chapter, just whatever the next thing is going to be. But write it in a different form. What we want to do is shock your brain a little bit and force it to fire up its creative juices. So write the next thing in your book as maybe a poem, a song, a screenplay, a television pilot. Write fiction as nonfiction. Write nonfiction as fiction. Write it as a diary entry. There are so many different ways to be creative with the written word. Write it as a speech, right? I mean, I could just go on forever and ever here. Write it as a 1940s radio telecast, like a fireside chat. There's a million different things, not a million, but there are many, many things that you can do with the written word. So sometimes it's very, very effective to shock your creative brain into a different direction by writing something that it's not expecting you to write. So poetry is pretty effective in this situation. For me, screenplays are pretty effective, but any of the types of writing mediums that I just listed, write the next thing in your book differently. And just a recap of my main productivity tips too that will also help when you're coming back to your book project after falling off track. Remember to schedule your writing sessions. Remember that every time you work on your book is a vote in favor of doing that. That comes from the book Atomic Habits, which is a great productivity book. And those votes add up. So every time you sit down and work on your book, even if it's for like 15 minutes, a half hour, that's a vote. And eventually you reach that tipping point where you're working on your book more than you're not working on your book. And that's when it becomes a habit. And remember to unplug. And I know I keep, banging this drum, but, I bang the drums that I need to listen to. And it's so easy for us to assume that we're stronger than our distractions, especially if we've been writing for a while. I've been doing this professionally for 19 years and amateur level decades before that. And believe me, I am no better than my distractions. I don't have social media and all that stuff on my phone because I know I will check my phone. I don't have the internet or, stuff, going while I'm in my writing cave because I know I will just hop over to that tab and start Googling some random thing about ketchup in the 1800s and you're like, I don't know what I was writing before. Now I'm like down some Google rabbit hole. Believe me, I'm no better than my distractions. I think most people are no better than their distractions. So for me, the only strategy I found to be effective is to just unplug with no exceptions. Create conditions that are conducive to your writing. Don't waste energy with things that don't support your writing habit. So that is today's episode, and thank you for joining me here on Your Daily Writing Habit, where I am helping you write and finish writing an awesome book. And please drop by my Inc. Authors group on Facebook, especially if you need some accountability. We're really good for that. Let us know, what your writing goals are, how you want us to hold you accountable, whether it's motivation or happiness or unicorn memes or tough love, or say, if I don't post here every day that I've written something, you guys please, tell me about it. But, I want you to do this to hold me accountable. That's one of the huge reasons that my group exists. Inc. Authors on Facebook. Until tomorrow, happy writing.